Hello and welcome to LCE510, Second Language Acquisition. My name is Pablo Tsukas and I'm going to be talking about aptitude in language acquisition. In 2006, Saville Troik identified 7 distinct learner differences based on given psychological factors. Those learner differences include gender, personality, motivation, age, cognitive style, learning strategies, and aptitude, which is the factor we are focusing on today. The study of individual differences in aptitude is one of the most established fields in psychology. The concept of language aptitude is related to the broader concept of human abilities, covering a variety of cognitively based learner differences, and the L2 domain has always seen aptitude as one of its key factors. John Carroll was amongst the first people who talked about language aptitude. In 1981, he defined it as, quote, capability of learning a task which depends on some combination of more or less enduring characteristics of the learner. In other words, aptitude is a natural ability, a skill, or a talent at doing something. A minute ago, I have mentioned something about the psychological factors in learner differences. Researchers refer to 3 psychological factors in order to determine the learning rate of L2 practitioners and distinguish between the 7 learner differences. Ortega, in 2009, has defined 3 factors as the factor of cognition, which refers to the brain, the processing it goes through when different linguistic forms are being absorbed. Thus, it is how information is processed and learned by the human mind. The factor of affect contains issues of temperament, emotions, and how L2 learners feel towards things like information, people, objects, actions, and thoughts. People say that usually emotions affect our language learning or production. Every emotion and feeling has its own inventory of vocabulary, and people tend to choose words that find more suitable in their situation, and then reflect to their current feelings. The final factor, conation, reflects to how L2 learners use will and freedom to make their choices, and acting when they feel the need to express themselves. As you can see, those spinning gears represent one of each of the 3 psychological factors. The shape demonstrates that the 3 factors work together and that the one affects the other in some way. They never operate independently or in isolation. There are 2 instruments used to measure aptitude in a learner. In 1959, the Modern Language Aptitude Test (MLAT) was created by Carroll and Sapon, and 1966 marked the creation of Pimsleur Language Battery (PLAB). The Modern Language Aptitude Test initially was developed for foreign language instruction in the United States. It was designed for selecting, guiding, and placing children in the foreign language in the elementary school program. Carroll and Sapon followed a psychometric approach while developing the first scientific language aptitude test. MLAT consists of 5 parts. Number learning, where learners hear some numbers in a new language and are provided with some auditory practice to learn. It is followed by a 15-number translation. Phonetic script. Students hear a sequence of meaningless words while they follow their printed phonetic script. The script is presented in a fairly simple and regular symbols. Then they hear one word at a time and must choose from 4 printed alternatives. Spelling clues. Quite similar to a vocabulary test. Learners choose from 5 alternatives the words which are nearest in meaning to the test word. Words in sentences. This test measures grammatical sensitivity. Paired associates. Students have got 4 minutes to memorize 24 word pairs, and then they choose the proper equivalent in a form of a multiple choice test. Now we're going to talk about the Pimsleur Language Aptitude Battery. It was developed as an alternative to MLAT. The measurements are quite similar, but it has no test of verbal memory. In PLAB, the score is awarded for grade point average in academic areas as a measure of intelligence. PLAB is composed of 6 parts. Grade point average, where learners have to report their grades they received in areas other than language learning. The vocabulary tests word knowledge in English and it's a measure of verbal ability. Interest in foreign language learning. It measures students' interest in foreign language learning. Language analysis. It tests students to reason logically as foreigners. It is another aspect of verbal ability. Sound discrimination. It tests the ability to learn new phonetic distinction and recognize them in different contexts, a measure of auditory ability. Sound symbol of association. It tests the ability to associate sounds with written symbols, another measure of auditory ability. Now, let's go take a look at the factors of language aptitude. According to Carroll, language aptitude comprises 4 constituent abilities. The phonemic coding ability. This ability is to identify distinct sounds from associations between them. The grammar sensitivity, which is the ability to recognize grammatical functions of words in sentences. Inductive language learning ability, the ability to identify patterns and relationships involving grammatical form and meaning. And the rote learning ability. It is the ability to learn association between sounds and meanings rapidly and efficiently to retain such associations. Pimsleur in 1966 conceptualized the aptitude for learning a modern language in terms of 3 factors. The first factor, the verbal intelligence. The knowledge of words and ability to reason analytically in using verbal materials. The second factor, motivation. There is a need of learner encouragement. There is a need of warm environment to prompt learners into meaningful learning. And finally, there is the auditory ability, the ability to receive and process information through the ear. Okay, and that is aptitude in language acquisition, everyone. What we talked about today is aptitude as a prominent factor of learner differences. We discussed its definition, the psychological factors supporting it, browsed through the 2 tests of aptitude measurement, and finally, we have seen aptitude factor classification from 2 respected perspectives, one from Carroll and one from Pimsleur. Here are my references. And thank you very much. Are there any questions?